We're starting in Canva. I have the design I created right here. You can see it's one piece when I click on it, just so I have it as a reference for when we're designing this. So I'm showing you how to make this on your own. So first we're going to go to our shapes on the left side. Just gonna click on the shape and click on the square. We have our square there. The square is representing our acrylic board, so we need to resize it to the size of the acrylic board. You're going to click on that lock because we want to make it the exact size. It's 32 by 20, 32 width by 20 height. Once you put that in, you lock it in. So make sure you lock that back in or it will adjust to the other height. So here's our acrylic board. Next, you're going to click on text, the T right there, and I would like to move that acrylic board a little bit. So I'll start by moving that over, and then we have our text right here. You can't really see what I'm doing, so I'm going to change the color of that by clicking right there. Let's make it yellow. Now our text, we're just going to type in welcome to. So you just double click on the text, it highlights everything, and you start typing. Now this is not the font we're going to be working with, so you'll go to your fonts, click on the down arrow, and right here in this search bar you're going to start typing the font you want, and you can pick whichever font you'd like. I am using this Stay Chic, so it's right there. You want to select that one. These fonts that I'm using are not free, so you can either pick whichever one you'd like or buy them. I think they're $4.99 a piece. So now I'm using the corner of the wording. See the squares there? You can adjust your height, your width, but if you click on the corner of the word, it helps you adjust the whole word. So I'm adjusting, just estimating what my welcome sign there was and just arranging that on my acrylic board. So that is our welcome to. Next, you're going to click on text again because we're going to write out the bride-to-be's name. So you double click and type that in, Quintas, and we want to adjust the height. But before that, our font, let's change our font now, and the font I used for this is the Spring Blue, I believe is what it was, Spring Blues. So I'll select that right there. I did a voiceover, but I lost all that, so I have to follow along and explain what I'm doing. So we have our font. Now the next part is, I didn't want to do the full Quinta's bridal shower because I want everything to fit on my vinyl. So they're all separate pieces is what we're trying to create, because I want to be able to move each word separately so that I can make it fit on the vinyl that I'm using to cut. So what I'm going to do now is just separate all the words. So create separate words, and I'll be able to move them around the board so that it fits where I need it to be. And I'll show you that, explain more, you'll understand it later on. So here I just have all that in one piece, but now we're going to go to our duplicate on the right next to the trash. Click on that and you have that duplicated. So you see another Quinta and click on it again. So we have our 3 words that we're going to write. You're going to change this one to bridal and then change your other one to shower. Now the next step is, you can see when I select that, it's right there at the bottom, but what we have are separate pieces that you can see. We have our square, we have our welcome to, we have our Quinta, we have our bridal and our shower all separated. But eventually we'll have one piece like you can see there. So now I'm trying to move the Quinta to the board, and I rotated it a little, which is good because I can show you how you adjust when it's rotated. I'm just sizing it. I remembered that I believe my words were about 300, the font size. So I'm adjusting that to get it to about 300. And right here where the font size is, you can also make adjustments there. But what I'm doing is going up here and just clicking on rotate and putting it to 0 so that it is aligned. And then you can make adjustments either on the corner or right here where the font is. You can just click the up and down arrows and that adjusts everything to where you want it, or you can click in there and type it in. Let's do the same with the bridle. We want that to be the same font size as well, so you can pull the corners or you can adjust it right there. We'll move that to the acrylic board, and we'll do the same with the shower and move that to the board. So we're pretty much done with all our words. Again, you design this with whatever you would like. Most of the time people use this for weddings, so you can write the bride and the groom's welcome to whose wedding, and they also add a date. I didn't want to put a date on this one, so we click on our yellow and delete that because we don't need the acrylic board anymore. But we do need our vinyl size, because if we just print this, it's not going to print it right. So what we're going to do is go to our shapes again, click on shapes, click on the square, and we're going to put the size of our vinyl, which I upgraded my matte size, and it's a 24 by 12. So 12 by 24, we're going to adjust it again how we adjusted the acrylic sign at the top. Now you can see it's covering the word, so you want to move it to the back of your board. So arrange there, we'll move it backwards, and I'll show you in Cricut Design Space everything is layered, so you want to click to the furthest back and that will show all your words. We'll change the color as well so we can see what we're doing. Now when I align it, you see that everything is within the square, but the issue with this is Cricut Design Space only recognizes half an inch less than what your mat measures. So we're going to go here to resize our mat to 23.5 by 11.5, just so that everything fits, because if you try to cut it, it's going to tell you that it's not going to fit on the mat, and sometimes it actually doesn't cut. So now when we resize, some of our letters are touching the corners and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is move the mat out of the way and we'll adjust the letters. So I'm trying to get all the letters adjusted together. The mat keeps moving as I'm working with it, but you can move the mat out of the way as well, because we know we're cramming everything together. We don't necessarily need the mat. So I'm moving all that in as tight as I can. You can cut each of these pieces separately if you like, but it's up to you. I created another video showing you how, if you don't have a mat this size, you can slice your wording and still be able to create your design. So I can link that video down below to show you how I did that. I actually cut a bigger sign in 4 pieces, then put it together. So I'm going to delete my mat, and you can see, but the issue now is this is all separate pieces. So what you want to do is weld this together. I'll show you here. As I bring it close, you can see where the letters overlap. They're all separate, and it would cut it as though they're pieces and not one full piece. So we want to highlight the whole design, and you see on the right side how it comes together. So right there on the bottom it says combine. You want to weld it all together, and now you have one piece. So that is all you have to do. I'm going to show you how I actually create the design here in a few minutes. We have our design all done. We've connected our Cricut machine. I'll show you the vinyl that I bought. It's this gold vinyl. I went with the textured vinyl instead of the smooth vinyl because I figured for a wedding bridal shower we want to be extra, and that's what we're gonna do. It's a pretty textured vinyl. So I'm going to get it out of the package. One other thing I do is I keep the tape that is attached to the vinyl because it's not as sticky, but it holds the vinyl, just so if I don't use the whole thing, then I retape it so the roll doesn't come apart. So I'm going to use my mat. This is my new mat I got just because I want to do other designs that are large and don't want to be bothered to cut separate pieces. So I'm aligning the vinyl to the mat so I can cut it just what I need. I don't need the full thing, and this vinyl can be used twice on this mat for this full size. So now we roll it in the opposite direction so that it's easier for us to place it on the mat. So we can align it and then unroll gently. I think I did too fast and you can see some bubbles right there. We don't want bubbles. So you want to smooth everything out and you're good to go. It's a new mat and it's sticking very well. So we're going to load our Cricut. I don't have much space on my desk, but our design is right there. I'm just adjusting some things and turning this around. Then I'm going to load my mat. It's blinking for me to load it. It's ready to cut. Then we click on the C and it starts cutting. Make sure you have enough space on the back of your Cricut. With a mat like this, it moves back and forth through the Cricut. So we're all done. Figured you don't want to see the whole thing. So I'm clearing my desk so you can see what I'm doing. Folding everything away. And then we're going to work on peeling off the vinyl. You want to peel the mat off the vinyl, not the vinyl off the mat, and that applies to all your designs. It makes it where it doesn't roll as much. Now we're going to just take off all the inner parts of our letters. So where you have an O, that inner part, the R's, the D's, and all that. So I'm just scoring all that out. Being careful not to tear where I shouldn't tear out. So we're pretty much done with all that. Next, I am going to cut the piece of vinyl that was not used on the mat so I can use it for other things. This vinyl is not cheap, so we're going to maximize the paper as much as we can. So I'm cutting out my letters. Please be careful when you do this part, especially when you squish them all together, so that you don't cut your letter off. So we want to make sure that we're cutting out the letters, the words very carefully. And then we have excess vinyl that we can reuse. That's all our pieces. Now we're going to peel off the excess vinyl to reveal our word. Again, you want to make sure you're careful so that you don't pull off the word itself. Another thing I do, which I forgot to mention with the Cricut design, once you're clicking to make it, I always apply more pressure because it asks you if you want to just give it at a standard pressure or if you want to apply at a higher pressure. So I always do more because I want to make sure it cuts it and I don't have to waste the vinyl when I'm done. So that's the bridal, very pretty. We're going to do the same with the quinta, and the rest of the words, and then we'll get to designing this beautiful acrylic sign. This is the acrylic board I bought from Home Depot. For some reason, one side was already peeled back, so I flipped that over on the side that is smooth, and I'm going to just score the board. So both sides come covered in paper, which helps protect the acrylic board. I'm creating a grid, but making sure that I have some space on the side, about 3 inches all around, because with this design, I do not want my paint to cover the whole board. So it's up to you. If you want your paint to cover the whole board, you don't have to worry about the sides, but I would recommend a grid because it helps you align your letters better. So I'm using this ruler. I need to find a longer ruler, especially with the other projects I have coming up. I'll need a metal long ruler eventually. I still haven't been able to find one. I'm creating a center point as well because it'll help me get my words to the center, so I'm not worried about them being all pushed to one side or the other of the board. And now we're going to create all our lines as our grid to be able to place all our letters. We are all done. We'll flip it around. Remember, that's going to come off when you're done. So take off that top part, and you're going to use some alcohol to just clean that off so that the vinyl sticks really well. We wipe it nice and clean, but also you have to wait till it dries, and you don't have to use any dry cloth or anything. The alcohol dries very well on its own without leaving any streaks. Now I'm aligning all my words just to get an idea of how it's going to look. And then I have my transfer tape here. It's a Cricut brand. If you don't want to buy the transfer tape, one of the tricks I showed you in the previous video that I'm linking below, you can use regular tape, and you just put some of your fabric or any cloth over just so it's not too sticky, and you're gonna use that. But we're gonna peel that off, try to align it on our acrylic board, and use our handy dandy tool. Again, this was a new investment. I'm excited I did. I always used like a credit card or something like that to get that on. Now when you peel back, remember that transfer tape is pretty sticky and it'll fold on itself, so be careful when you pull it back so you can, and it's reusable. So that's what I'm doing there, making sure everything is nice and aligned. You can see that I had some of the letters not wanting to come off. When you're using a textured vinyl, it's a little bit harder. You have to make sure you're getting it on your transfer tape. So we have that on. I was careful this time, and I figured the O, right where the O begins, is the middle of my welcome to, and then we put that on and peel it off. This acrylic board is very sticky, so be careful when you're applying it so that you do it one time, because it'll be hard to get it off. I'm trying to find a center point there just so I can apply the bridle, and the shower are nice and separated and they look presentable. Peeling off the back again and trying to get that straight and aligned. I'm actually using the bottom of the B and the L to align it on my grid. We'll peel that off and do the same with the shower. I'm using the back of the transfer tape to put the transfer tape back on it so that I can reuse it. Very sticky, don't throw it away, you can always reuse it. And we're pretty much done with the wording. I'm flipping it around, going to peel the back of this, but this is the brush I'm using. It's 3 inches wide, and we're going to make our back pink. So we're pulling this part off. Make sure you shake your paint. It's just an acrylic paint, and we'll get to brushing it on. We start out with just a little bit at a time, brushing it off. You don't want to be perfect at this point because this is just your first coat. It's not going to be perfect. Got a hair from the brush on the paint. That's what I was taking off. So you're just gonna brush that on. The design I'm going for, I want the strokes to be in the same direction, so that's what I'm doing there. Just brush, get that all on. The goal is to get all your words covered, and make sure that you're not going too far to the edge of the acrylic. I think by the time I did the third coat, I extended it a little more than I wanted to, but it turned out okay. This is not a perfect paint job because you want that rustic feel. So first coat done, and I waited for it to dry. I'm applying the second coat. This time, my goal with applying the second coat is making sure that I'm designing the corners of my acrylic board. I'm creating somewhat of a stepward design all around. So doing the same thing, strokes going in the same direction, and just coating everything up. You can see here I try to step like a zigzag around. Keep brushing that on. We're done with that first step. I'm using the back that I peeled off to protect my brush from drying out. And I'm back here to show you what it looks like. You can still see some spaces and gaps, so we need a third coat. You can somewhat see through. If you like that design, you can end here, but I wanted some more coverage, especially since my letters are gold and the pink is a lighter pink. So I'm putting on the third coat. This time I'm not going to the far edge. I'm just trying to cover up where the letters are so that it's easier to read, but also it's not see-through. I'm not putting it against anything. I mean the sign, I'm just putting it on an easel and putting some flowers at the top. I'll show you the final look at the end. If this is your first time tuning in, or if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It really supports this channel and encourages me to keep going. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I'll be glad to answer. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. So this is about it. We're going to let it dry. Thank you for watching.